It's Big East Shootaround live from New York City. Hey again, everybody. We've got a loaded show for you. John Fanta with you. I know that you're all intrigued to see who won the first round matchups of the Big East Preseason Player of the Year fan vote. We will unveil the Elite Eight remaining later in this show. We've got Fox College basketball analyst Nick Bahe with his season outlook. But we begin with the Shootaround Challenge. Last week, Miles Powell edged me in South Orange, but now we've got the Providence Friars, Alpha DIallo, Drew Edwards. But first, we've got the outlook on the Friars season, as this group is poised to do even bigger things. We're talking with Friars senior Drew Edwards, Friars junior Alpha DIallo. Before we get on the court and shoot, Alpha, how exciting is it to know that first practice, the preseason, about to be underway?
It's really exciting. We did a lot this summer, worked hard. We can't wait to start our first official. So,
Drew, give me a recap of the Italy trip.
Oh man, that was unbelievable. It's Last Supper painting. We went to see, we were in Rome. We got to see the Coliseum, a couple buildings there. A lot of traveling. Itineraries were full, so it was full.
Yeah,
it was fun.
a great
It was really
experience,
fun.
for sure.
You guys came so close to a Big East tournament title last year. How much is that on your minds heading into this year to get it done?
We're going to take one game at a time and hopefully get there again because we got the right pieces and we got a good core group and great leadership from some of our seniors, and we can't wait to get back there for sure.
Toughest places to play in the Big East?
Toughest places? Definitely Villanova. Xavier's big. Marquette's hard. It gets loud in Marquette. Creighton's they sell out pretty much everything. So that's just, and being on that stage is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Definitely the best place to play though is the Garden for sure. That's the best place all the time.
It's the best place, and you're a New York guy too.
Right.
So when you walk in the Garden, what's that like?
Best of both worlds. We have all the Friar fans that drive down, our loyal Friar fans, and also have my family there. Most of the time I ask for too many tickets, but they really enjoy it when I'm playing in the Garden.
I know it's a game-by-game approach, but I'm going to ask two veterans here. How deep can this Friars team go?
We have the right pieces, and we feel like we could go as far as we push ourselves. And our coach has unbelievable faith in us, and we feel like we could get pretty far, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Follow up what he says. We're the only ones that are going to be in our own way. So the only team that's going to beat us is us. So that's how we see it.
All right, we ready for a one-on-one game? Or, not one-on-one. We ready for a Big East Shoot-Around Challenge?
Let's do it.
Who wins one-on-one between you two?
Oh, shoot. How many? What is it? 4-3 me this week?
Don't believe it.
4-3 me this week.
He's got the edge in a 7-game series against you.
Of course.
And he's got a size advantage.
Don't believe the hype. Turn up. Huh?
Oh, back to you. Oh. Too quick, huh?
5. Yeah. 7. 10. 11. 12.
Short.
14. This foot was on line for that one.
Oh!
20 seconds.
Going for the money.
Oh, yeah.
16. 17. 4.
20. Oh, finish it. 20.
5,
It's good. What?
3, 2, 1.
Oh!
2, 3,
Oh, he's done this before.
4. Got you. 5.
I get 6 here. I gotta pick it up. How much time I got? Oh.
Make one of those.
Oh. This has been ugly.
There it is.
11.
He said 11. 11 plus 3 is not 6. Oh, his 3s is 6.
One more look at it. What is that? 22, I think. 22?
7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
One more.
2, 1. I'm shooting all 3s, yo.
All 3.
Miles Powell had like 42.
42? Bet.
3, 2,
Shout out to Miles.
2. Approach. 4. 7.
Off right. Get in there. Hey, that's a quick timer. We get it.
10.
Let's run them off.
Oh, my hand's cold. Get hot. Get hot.
Sizzle.
Get in there.
There it is.
13.
Yep.
16. Keep feeding him.
Get hot. Get hot.
19.
Oh.
22. He gets one more here. 25 and
Get out.
28. 28.
Come on, Miles.
It's almost 15.
10.
Ah.
7.
Ah.
6. 5. 4. 3. 2. Give one more.
Ah.
I couldn't take either one of them down. These Friars are too tough for me.
You know it. Thanks for having us, Joe.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was a morning in Friartown. The rust was there. I could ride the excuse train all day. It was not the right performance there by yours truly, but Alpha DIallo takes it, and great to be with those guys. Drew and Alpha, 2 class acts and 2 guys who are looking to add that veteran presence now to Providence. And thank you for the hospitality from the Friars. I walked right in the gym, and Arthur Parks, their SID, said, hey, you got to put on a Friar jersey for this. So how about that? I've got my own Friar thread now. It's the first of, well, hopefully 10 Big East schools. I mean, feel free. I'll wear your uniform if you offer it to me. Thank you, Providence. It's very nice of you to do that, and very nice of them to have us out as we got a lot of other features for the preseason, from a tour of the Ruane Center to a sit-down with Ed Cooley, David Duke, and A.J. Reeves as well. And you'll see those as the preseason forges ahead. And look out for Friars. Yeah, the game that Alpha and I played last year. Look out for round 2 of that later today on @BigEastMBB on Twitter. But now, it's the moment you've been waiting for, the unveiling of the Big East Preseason Player of the Year fan voting competition. We've got round 1 here, all done. Remember, this is a fan vote. The coaches actually vote on the conference's Preseason Player of the Year, but we wanted to get you fans involved, so let's do it here. Let's start out with the results. And first up, we've got Shamari Pons of St. John's taking on Villanova's Phil Booth. The winner here by a significant margin is Shamari Pons. And that's nothing against Phil Booth, but Pons was stellar last year for the Johnnies, averaged over 21 points per game, and now he's back the expectation is that he can be the Big East preseason player of the year as we turn to MYLES Powell and Alpha DIallo, and this was a bit of a surprise. MYLES Powell was the Big East most improved player last year, and he's a sharpshooter, but you think to yourself, Alpha DIallo's getting some looks, potentially could be an NBA draft selection down the road, but MYLES Powell got the Seton Hall Pirate fans. He had them voting all week long. And there was a lot of interaction from South Orange, and MYLES Powell is moving on in what was a neck-and-neck matchup. Now it's Eric Paschall from Villanova, St. John's Marvin Clark. Who takes it? Eric Paschall. And what was a tighter matchup than some may have thought at first. Marvin Clark, a complimentary piece. Now Eric Paschall looking to lead the way for the Villanova Wildcats. And this is a guy who moves on, and he will be facing Georgetown's Jesse Govan, who averaged a double-double last year and now is back and ready to lead the Hoyas. Justin Simon of St. John's is one of the most versatile pieces in the Big East, but it's Govan moving on in the East region. So those are the 8. We'll get to those matchups in a moment. Those are the 4, rather, on the East. As we turn to the Midwest, it's Kamar Baldwin and Najee Marshall, Butler and Xavier showdown. It's become a good rivalry in the conference, and it's Kamar Baldwin who's moving on, averaging nearly 17 per game last year in Big East play, and it's Baldwin, the Butler star, who is on to the Elite 8. He will be meeting Sam Hauser from Marquette. When you ask Big East coaches across the league what makes Marquette so good, they say this guy, pick and pop ability, has extensive range, shot 49% from 3 last year. He edges out Max Strus of DePaul, and big expectations for Strus this year. Let's go down to the bottom pod in the Midwest region. Quinn Gooden takes down Martine Crumple. A lot of people are anticipating the return of Crumple to Creighton after the ACL injury. Had his season end shortly last year. Now it's Quinn Gooden, though, that moves on in this matchup, and Gooden expected to lead Xavier as their engineer of the offense. And in the bottom pod, Marcus Howard and Eli Kane, and this one goes to Howard. A lot of people have Marcus Howard chalked as their Big East preseason player of the year. He gets out of the first round. He's moving on to the Elite 8. He'll be meeting Quinn Gooden in a matchup of point guards. So here's a full look at the bracket. Pons and Powell, Paschall Govan, Baldwin, Hauser, Gooden, Howard. The matchups that I have my eye on. In the East region, bottom pod, Eric Paschall, Jesse Govan. The thing about these two is their ability to stretch the floor. Govan as a 5, Paschall as a 4. They've got incredible versatility for their size. And when I look at Eric Paschall, he was on the Final Four All-Tournament team last year, and people almost forget, because of what Dante DiVincenzo did against Michigan, look what Paschall did against Kansas, 24 points in that Final Four game. Then in the Midwest pod, Kamar Baldwin and Sam Hauser. I love these two players. Baldwin, not only did he average nearly 17 per game in Big East play, but think about this, folks. This is a guy who led Butler in steals. He had 54 steals. He had a couple of assists per game. He had 5 rebounds per game, and he's a 6'1" guard. Kamar Baldwin does so much for his size, and he defends the ball well. For Hauser, this is a guy that is the definition of a matchup nightmare, similar to what we see in Paschall on the other side of the bracket. So the thing with that is that Marquette looks at Sam Hauser as their most valuable player. He actually won that award for them last year. But Marcus Howard and Andrew Rousey were the All-Big East honorees. It says a lot about what Marquette thinks of Hauser, and that makes for an intriguing showdown with Kamar Baldwin, who a lot of people know about somewhat, but when you thought Butler last year, you always thought Keelan Martin. And I almost think it's a discredit to Baldwin in some regards, because as a sophomore, what more could you ask from the guy? He averaged nearly 17 per game in Big East play, and he did everything for them. So that's something that we talked a lot with Nick Bahe from Fox Sports, is the idea of, you see a lot of the players in that bracket, you knew something about them, but because of the Trayvon Blewitts, the Marcus Fosters, the Keelan Martins, the Desi Rodriguez's, the Angel Delgados, you didn't necessarily know as much about them as you're going to know this year. But I started by asking Nick who is the team that he's most interested in. those Milwaukee fans that are getting ready for Brewers and Rockies this afternoon may want to take a listen.
Well, I think Marquette is the team that I'm most intrigued with right away. I mean, they're a team that feels like they've been kind of beaten on the door. They got in to the NCAA tournament 2 years ago, ran into South Carolina, who made the big run, and they played them in South Carolina. Last year, they won a few games in the NIT. They're kind of going through a lot of the check marks of what you see with a team that's building to burst through. Marcus Howard, who I think has got a great opportunity to be the Big East Player of the Year when it's all said and done. I love the HAUSER brothers. I've heard great things about Joey, and I think Sam's one of the most underrated players in the conference. So Marquette's the team that, at least on paper, they feel like they can take a big step forward and really kind of break through. But ultimately, the big question always with them is, can they get enough stops? They're going to be electric offensively, but defensively, can they find some of that mojo, if you will, on that end of the floor? But that's the team to me that I am really, really excited to see what they look like this season.
Let's turn to the rest of the conference. Who's the team that not enough people are talking about?
I actually think it's Butler. I think Butler's a team that I know they lose Keelan Martin, and a lot went through him offensively, but I really like their backcourt. I mean, Kamar Baldwin, I think, is fantastic. And then you have Jorgensen, and then I like Aaron Thompson. I think Aaron Thompson is a guy that is poised to maybe take a big step this season. Every time I talk to LaVall Jordan, he ranted and raved about this kid's IQ. His biggest issue, John, was he couldn't shoot the ball from the perimeter, so people played off of him. I think if he spent the whole summer in Hinkle Fieldhouse getting up jumpers and gets to where he's just a guy you have to respect, I think that's going to take his offensive game and everybody else on the floor's game to another level. Sean McDermott's another guy that can really stretch the floor, and they got a Duke transfer that'll be eligible at semester that he also can shoot it. So in 28, Jordan Tucker, good player, watched him practice a few times last year. He can shoot it. And in 2018, three-point shooting is a huge part of success. And I look at the plethora of shooters that Butler has, and I like that group. And I think LaVall Jordan understands the right buttons to push. It all starts with Baldwin. But the thing I like is that in Baldwin and Aaron Thompson, you have two perimeter defenders that are elite defensive players, where you can sick them on to two great backcourt players and feel like you're in pretty good shape. So I actually think Butler's a team that's not getting enough love right now.
To me and to the viewer, it might be cliche when a player or coach talks about culture. But when you think Butler, you think of their product of that culture. You've been in their shoot-arounds, and again, you know what it's like to be in a locker room. So how would you define what they do as a program, and what makes them just that type of team that it doesn't matter who's on the roster, it's interchangeable in the toolbox? They're going to be a team that can be a factor in March.
Yeah, I think it starts with zero selfishness in that program. I mean, there isn't anybody in that locker room that is concerned about their minutes, their shots, their playing time. It's all about Butler. And I know that sounds cliche, but that matters. Over the course of the season, when you get guys that are wanting to pout or throw a pity party, sometimes misery needs company, John, and those guys want to reach out and bring other people with them and bring them down. You don't get any of that. I think that's a huge part of it. And then don't underestimate the standard of a program and what that does to you internally in terms of you don't want to be the guy to mess it up. I know when I was at Creighton, I didn't play with Kyle Korver, but I thought about Kyle Korver a lot. And I would say, I don't want to mess up what Kyle built. I don't want to mess up what those guys worked so hard to establish. And I guarantee you, guys like Kamar Baldwin and Aaron Thompson and Sean McDermott, they think about Andrew Schrabbis, and they think about Gordon Hayward and Shelvin Mack and those guys, and the back-to-back Final Fours and Brad Stevens and all those kinds of things. You walk into Hinkle Fieldhouse, and it just oozes winning basketball, keyword being winning. And so I think all those intangible things that are sometimes tough to sink your teeth into really make a difference throughout the course of a season of being on the right end of the final score of a lot of games.
I've talked to the coaches around the league in this preseason, and everybody's saying, look, we lost a lot of talent, pure bucket getters. but we've got a lot of talent, and some of that talent got overshadowed, and people haven't really found out what some of these guys can do. That could be a real possibility in this league this year.
Totally agree. Sometimes greatness is just an opportunity away. And sometimes
I'm going to write that
being
down.
an all-conference, I mean, it's honestly, it's sometimes I think we think the guy that's sitting on the bench or the guy that's just a role player doesn't have the capabilities of being the star. Sometimes it's just a matter of what they're asked to do. And, I mean, you look at a guy like Kamar Baldwin from his freshman to his sophomore year, he wasn't asked to do certain things, and then the next year he was, and he was able to do them. And so I think you look across the league, there are a lot of guys that to me have the ability to flourish, and they just need the opportunity to do so. And so I look at a team like Creighton. There's a lot of guys like that I think have the ability to score and put up points, and it'll be interesting to see what that looks like when they're kind of given the green light and that door opens for them and what they can do with it.
Nick, I always learn something, and more than just something, every time we talk to you, so thanks for coming on.
You're the man, John. Thank you, brother.
Thanks to Nick Bahe. Thanks to the Providence Friars for being on this week's show. I am off to Milwaukee tomorrow to be at Marquette Madness. We've got features with the Marquette men's basketball team. They will be loaded this upcoming year, and much more on next week's show. Join us Thursday at 1 Eastern. For all of us on Big East Shootaround, I'm John Fanta. So long. See you next week.